Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a moment to appreciate football's real-life Sonic the Hedgehog. Obafemi Martins, faster than your Wi-Fi on fiber optic, quicker than your mom catching you sneaking in late at night. This man wasn't just fast, he was so fast that his own age couldn't keep up with him. Imagine this: Cristiano Ronaldo, fast. Kylian Mbappe, faster. But Martins, my guy, was outpacing reality itself. If you ever played FIFA or Pro Evolution Soccer back in the day, you know the pain of chasing him down because you couldn't. The ball didn't even need to be in play yet, and he was already at the other end of the pitch. But wait, how did one of the fastest players of all time not become a global superstar? Was it injuries, poor career choices, or was it something a little more controversial? Buckle up, folks, because this one's about to get interesting. 1. The PlayStation 2 legend. Now, some of you may have first heard about Obafemi Martins through watching Serie A or the Premier League. But real ones? We discovered him on PlayStation 2. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2005. You load up Pro Evolution Soccer. You're looking for strikers. You see a 99 speed rating. Instant buy. It didn't matter if you were playing as Barcelona, Arsenal, or FC Backyard. You had to sign Martins. He was basically the original pace merchants before that even became a FIFA term. And if you were up against him, well, good luck. Trying to catch Martins in a football video game was like trying to chase your little cousin around the house after they steal your phone. Frustrating, exhausting, and ultimately pointless. Defenders in those games had no chance. You could be controlling prime Paolo Maldini, and Martins would still leave you behind like you were running in slow motion. The developers didn't even try to balance it. His pace stat was 99. His acceleration, also 99. His ability to teleport from one end of the pitch to the other, basically coded into the game. And then there was the goal celebration. You score a goal with Martins, and suddenly your TV screen was filled with more backflips than an Olympic gymnastics routine. It didn't matter if you were winning or losing. If you scored, you were flexing with at least 5 somersaults. You could literally pass the ball forward with Martins, put down the controller, go grab a snack, and by the time you came back, he was already celebrating. If Martins was in your team, your opponent was already mentally preparing an excuse to quit by halftime. Sometimes I'd purposely play a long ball just to watch him outrun defenders for the fun of it. Who needed tactics when you had pure speed? Even the referee's whistle couldn't stop him. He was still running after the game ended. PS and FIFA literally created a game-breaking player and just let him exist. They didn't even try to nerf him. I'm convinced Martins in PS was the reason why EA started introducing Stamina Drain, because without it he was basically an unlimited cheat code. And let's not forget, every single FIFA game after that for nearly a decade still kept giving him absurd pace stats. He could be 35 years old in real life, but in the game, still 99 speed. At that point, EA might as well have made him a superhero. But here's the real kicker. Despite all the in-game hype, in real life, Martins was just as ridiculous. He wasn't some virtual myth. He was actually burning past defenders, like they weren't even there. It wasn't a PlayStation glitch. It was just Obafemi Martins being Obafemi Martins. 2. From Nigeria to Inter Milan. At what age? So how did Martins go from a kid in Nigeria to playing for Inter Milan? Simple. He was too fast for clubs to ignore. After just 1 year in Nigeria's FC Abede, he landed in Italy at 16, or at least, that's what the paperwork said. Now, football age controversies are nothing new, but in Martins' case, let's just say people started getting very suspicious when he was playing for Inter's youth team and looked like he had a mortgage. Listen, African football age scandals are like plot twists in Nollywood movies, dramatic, inevitable, and always met with the same reaction. Wait, how old did you say he is again? At first nobody really questioned it. The guy was built like a tank, ran like a cheetah, and played like a veteran. But then whispers started circulating. Fans, commentators, and even teammates started side-eyeing his birth certificate like it was written in pencil. It didn't help that around this time, FIFA started cracking down on age falsification in African football. Suddenly everyone wanted to check the receipts, and Martins, he was caught right in the middle of it. By the time he was at Newcastle, even his own club's fans had made up a chant questioning whether he was 21 or 28. But let's be real, whether he was 16, 21, or secretly 35, the guy delivered. He was faster than everyone else, could shoot rockets from distance, and was scoring goals for fun. So what if his birth certificate was looking a little creative? You know your age is really in question when even your own countrymen are like, bro, let's be honest with ourselves. Imagine applying for a loan at the bank and the teller just looks at you like, sir, aren't you supposed to be in school? At one point it felt like Martins was aging in reverse. Like, how do you stay that fast for that long? Even Father Time was struggling to keep up. Nigerian footballers and suspicious birthdays. Name a more iconic duo. It got to the point where even Wikipedia was confused. One day he was born in 1984, The next day it was 1988. Someone at FIFA headquarters was sweating trying to keep up. African footballers are the only people who can be 17 years old with a full beard and 3 kids in primary school. But controversy or not, Martins was still getting the job done. Once he made the jump to Inter Milan, it was clear that the only thing faster than him was the number of clubs trying to sign him. 3. Inter Milan. The counter-attack king. Despite the whispers about his age, one thing was undeniable: this man could play. In his debut season at Inter, he was already embarrassing defenders and scoring screamers. And his celebration. The backflips. Who even does that after running 90 minutes? My knees hurt just thinking about it. Inter Milan quickly realized that Martins was the perfect counter-attack weapon. Opponents would send their defenders forward, thinking they had possession under control. Meanwhile, Martins was already halfway down the pitch, casually waiting for the ball like an Uber driver at the airport. His style of play was simple but deadly. All Inter had to do was boot the ball into space, and boom, Martins was gone. Defenders were left chasing shadows, goalkeepers were left panicking, and coaches were left questioning their life choices. You have to understand, Serie A in the early 2000s was not a fast-paced league. This was a league built on tactical discipline, deep defensive lines, and teams that preferred to win 1-0 rather than entertain. Then here comes Martins, running past defenders like they were NPCs in FIFA career mode. Italian defenders, who prided themselves on positioning and experience, had never seen anything like this before. And the moment he stepped onto the big stage, the Champions League, he made sure the whole world knew who he was. His goal against Bayer Leverkusen, pure class. His performance in the semi-final against AC Milan, legendary. The man didn't just arrive, he announced himself with style, speed, and a ridiculous number of backflips. Serie A defenders thought they had mastered football, then they met Obafemi Martins and suddenly had an identity crisis. Martins didn't dribble past defenders, he just outran them like he had somewhere more important to be. Inter Milan's game plan with Martins was basically, just kick the ball forward and he'll handle the rest. You know you're fast when the camera operator has trouble keeping up with you. Martins scoring in the Champions League was not a surprise. The real surprise was how many backflips he could do before the referee told him to stop. Inter Milan thought they signed a striker, turns out they signed a sprinter who just happened to play football. But as Martins' star was rising, so was the competition. And just when he thought he was about to become the main man at Inter, Zlatan Ibrahimovic arrived. 4. The Newcastle gamble, football's unluckiest move. After winning Serie A, 2 Coppa Italias, and scoring bangers for fun, Martins did something questionable. He left Inter Milan for Newcastle. Yes, you heard that right. Now Newcastle fans, no disrespect. But let's be real, leaving prime Inter to replace Alan Shearer. That's like leaving a 5-star buffet to eat at a street food stall that might give you food poisoning. And almost immediately the Newcastle curse struck. On his Premier League debut against Aston Villa, Martins suffered a severe knee injury. He barely had time to unpack his bags before his legs decided, nah, we're sitting this one out. Newcastle fans were already panicking. They had just given him the legendary No. 9 shirt, expecting him to be the next Shearer. And within weeks he was on crutches. Talk about a nightmare start. But credit to Martins, when he did return, he wasted no time proving why Newcastle bought him. In January 2007, he announced his comeback in ridiculous fashion, scoring a 20-yard thunderbolt against Tottenham that was so powerful, Sky Sports had to check if their radar was working properly. The ball was clocked at 135 km/h. That's not a shot, that's an artillery strike. For a while it looked like Martins might just be Newcastle's savior. He had the speed, the shot power, and the insane celebrations. But unfortunately, Newcastle's management had other plans. Instead of building a solid team around him, they decided to experiment with some of the most confusing tactics in football history. Newcastle gave Martins the number 9 shirt and immediately forgot to build a proper team around him. That's like handing someone the keys to a sports car but not putting any fuel in it. Martins' shot against Tottenham was so powerful, I'm surprised it didn't break the laws of physics. Newcastle fans had high hopes for Martins. Instead, they got a tragic reminder that their club just doesn't do happiness. Newcastle's strategy back then was basically, let's play every formation except the one that works. Imagine signing a guy known for speed and then benching him for Michael Owen, a guy whose legs had already retired before he did. Newcastle treated their strikers the way airlines treat passengers, promising the best experience and then leaving them stranded with no support. And if the injuries and mismanagement weren't enough, Newcastle was also having a full-blown identity crisis. Managers were coming and going like substitute teachers, and their tactics changed every other game. One week Martins was leading the attack. The next, he was on the bench watching Newcastle try and fail to make Michael Owen their main man. Eventually, all this chaos led to disaster. Newcastle got relegated in 2009. Martins, still in his prime, wanted no part of championship football. So instead of fighting to bring Newcastle back up, he packed his bags and started a new adventure elsewhere. But this decision would mark the beginning of the end of his time in Europe's top leagues. 5. The post-Newcastle mystery tour. At this point you'd expect Martins to sign for another top European club, right? Wrong. Instead he went to Wolfsburg, then Russia, then Birmingham City, then Spain, then MLS, then China. My guy was collecting passports, like Thanos, collecting infinity stones. If there was an award for most random club journey, Martins would win it every year. One season he was scoring goals in the Bundesliga. The next he was in Russia trying to survive minus 30 degrees Celsius weather. Then suddenly he was back in England for a quick loan spell at Birmingham City, only to vanish again. By the time he reached Levante in Spain, even his own fans had trouble keeping up. One moment he was scoring screamers, the next he had disappeared to the MLS without a proper goodbye. You know it's bad when even Google has trouble updating your Wikipedia page fast enough. And let's talk about his MLS stint. Because while most European players go to the US for retirement football, Martins went there to terrorize defenders. At the age where most strikers start slowing down, he was still sprinting past 22-year-olds like they were traffic cones. Seattle Sounders fans thought they were getting an ex-Premier League striker. They accidentally signed the Flash. And let's not forget his time in China. At this point Martins wasn't just playing football, he was on an international money heist, cashing in huge paychecks while still pulling off insane acrobatics. The man truly mastered the art of football and financial security. Martins' career path looked like a football manager save where the player just keeps clicking random clubs every season. The man traveled more than a tour guide. At this point his air miles should have been paying his salary. Keeping track of Martins' transfers was harder than tracking Bitcoin prices. One day he was here, next day he was gone. At Wolfsburg, he played under a solid system. In Russia he played under frostbite conditions. In MLS, he played under the just have fun rule. And in China, he played under make that money's mode. Seattle fans didn't realize they were signing a living cheat code until they saw him outrun every single MLS defender while doing backflips. By the time he got to China it wasn't even about football anymore. It was about the bag. And honestly, respect. But no matter where he went, one thing was consistent: Martins always found the net. He may not have stayed long at any club, but he made sure to leave a highlight reel behind before moving to the next adventure. And by the time he finally retired in 2020 at nearly 37 or however old he actually was, one thing was clear: he never quite became a global superstar, but he sure as hell entertained us every step of the way. 6. The age question and the legacy. Now back to the big question. Did age controversies hurt Martins' career? Maybe. Some big clubs did hesitate to sign him after whispers started circulating. But let's be honest. If you're fast enough to outrun the rumors, do they really exist? Because no matter how many times people questioned his birthday, Martins just kept doing what he did best, scoring goals and flipping through the air like he was auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. Besides, what's football without a little mystery? Some players have transfer sagas, some have contract disputes, and Martins, he had the world playing guess his age like it was an international game show. And honestly, who cares? Whether he was 21, 28, or secretly a time traveler, the man delivered everywhere he went. He didn't need to be a Ballon d'Or winner to be remembered. He just needed to be the fastest man on the pitch. Even today, if you bring up his name in a football conversation, people don't debate his trophies or his stats. They talk about how ridiculously fast he was. That's legacy. That's impact. That's the reason why FIFA and PS kept giving him 99 pace even when he was supposedly slowing down. Because at the end of the day, football fans don't always remember numbers. They remember moments, and Martins gave us moments. Whether it was a 135 km per h thunderbolt, a Champions League goal, or a backflip celebration that made your knees hurt just watching it. At this point, Martins' actual age is less important than the fact that he spent 2 decades running past defenders like they were standing still. Martins' legacy isn't a debate about whether he was 25 or 35. It's about defenders waking up in cold sweats remembering the time he zoomed past them like they didn't exist. For all we know, he could still be running right now. Somewhere in an alternate universe, Martins just completed another sprint, and nobody caught him. Even if FIFA eventually cracks football's greatest age mystery, it won't change the fact that defenders still wouldn't have caught him. Some players leave a legacy with their leadership, others with their trophies. Martins, he left his legacy in the dust, along with every defender who ever tried to chase him. Maybe Martins did have an age scandal. Maybe he did have a confusing career path. But one thing's for sure, he never had a slow day on the pitch. So if you ever find yourself debating Obafemi Martins' real age, just stop. It doesn't matter. What matters is that he was possibly the fastest footballer of all time, and for that he'll never be forgotten. Closing thoughts. The footballing flash. So what do you think? Was Martins just an unlucky superstar, or did the age scandal really cost him a bigger career? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And remember, no matter how old you think you are, you will never be older than Obafemi Martins in any football debate. See you next time.